As the show's over in Miami for Ryan Fitzpatrick, it's Tua time. Of all the times for it to be Tua time, yesterday, Tua Tagovailoa named the starter as the Dolphins start into their bye week. They got the Rams on the other side, week 8. 3-3 are the Miami Dolphins. Fitzpatrick has been far more Fitzmagic than Fitztragic. It was a little rough start to the season, but he's been very good since then. They're 3-1 over the last 4 games. Christopher, your reaction when you heard yesterday that your former colleague in New England, Brian Flores, had decided to make the switch from Fitzpatrick to the rookie?
Well, I mean, I was surprised. I'm not going to say I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did this. I wasn't shocked, and I'll say this for this reason. Over the last week, I had definitely thought about, like, okay, we saw Tua. I mean, we saw Tua the other day, but even before that, I was thinking, at what point do they infuse him in there? They're kind of getting into a tough spot. You know, after they beat the 49ers and they go 2-3, you go, oh, they look kind of good, you know, and they're definitely going to beat the Jets, so they're going to be 3-3. You know, so there's 2 things here. I mean, the first is they're going into a bye week, right? So we always know that's great for the quarterback and doing all those things. But I think the reason that I'm not surprised, or maybe not just shocked, is look at their schedule. Look at what is set up. Now, the bye week, they got the Rams, but then they got the Cardinals, the Chargers, the Broncos, the Jets, and the Bengals. I mean, they could be sitting here at 8-4 in another 5 weeks. And then what are you going to do? Bench Ryan Fitzpatrick? Or then what are you going to do? Go 10-6 and just get in the playoffs and then abandon the Ryan Fitzpatrick ship and kind of set the narrative in a negative way for Tua next year? Well, he's taking over a playoff team. Why isn't this working?
You mean like Patrick Mahomes did?
Well, yes, but this is different, and they don't feel the same way there. It's a little different that way. You know, that was already a playoff team before that. This is like, oh, they're building something, and I think they're probably a little fearful of that. And then let alone the team is finally, I think, in a spot where they go, okay, we're pretty good. Let's put our quarterback in there. We're not putting him, you know, with a work in progress where everything's crazy around him, and then he can't be good either, and it looks like we've wasted a draft pick. So I just think the stars have aligned with where they're at and where their schedule's at to where they think this is the time. The time is now.
And I was mainly giving you a hard time by referring to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs because it is a different situation. They were a perennial playoff team under Andy Reid and Alex Smith.
Right.
And it was obvious the moment that Mahomes was drafted that at some point they're going to try to upgrade. They're going to try to go next level. Oh, and by the way, it worked.
Went next level.
Right. And let me tell you this. I still believe when the offense sputtered in the 2017 season, they should have gone from Alex Smith to Patrick Mahomes. And if they had, we all would have been treated to the Patrick Mahomes show earlier than we were. And who knows what would have happened in the 2017 season between the Patriots and the Chiefs in the postseason if the Mahomes experiment had begun earlier. But there's an alternate universe out there where that happened. And again, who knows what would have happened if the Chiefs had gone with Mahomes. Here, because you're dealing with a team that is bad far more often than not, they did bounce their way into the playoffs in 2016, a quick one and done at Pittsburgh. We don't even think about that when we reflect on the last decade of the Miami Dolphins. If all of a sudden you get to the playoffs with Ryan Fitzpatrick, then you're going to have a faction of your fan base that wants to stick with him.
Right.
And it does start looking like a wasted pick, or it's too much pressure on Tua Tagovailoa. So do it now before everything starts to potentially keep moving in a direction that makes it harder to do it later. And, Chris, here's the other thing, too. We always know that Ryan Fitzpatrick goes from Fitzmagic to Fitztragic. It's just a matter of time. Once everyone is bought in to the fact that Fitzpatrick is really good, that's when he goes out and throws 4 interceptions. And then we're like, damn, what happened to that guy that was really good? So, you know, the coaching staff in Miami knows it's coming at some point.
Right.
Let's go ahead and walk away at 3-3. Thank you, Ryan Fitzpatrick, for getting us to 500 through 6 games.
That's
the
right.
rookie's going to take it from here.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer they should have just gone with him from week 1. Look, the moment you draft the guy in the top 10, you know, the pendulum swung in 2008 when Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco both started week 1. And Flacco started week 1 because Troy Smith got a case of tonsillitis during training
Yep.
camp and the preseason, and the Ravens became comfortable with the notion that Flacco could protect himself behind an offensive line that wasn't spectacular. Starting then, the default has been, other than Mahomes, really, who's the other high pick at quarterback since 2008 that has to sit for a year or two?
Yeah, you're right.
It doesn't happen anymore.
Doesn't. No.
So get him on the field. Let's see what happens. Let's see if he can stay healthy. Let's see if he's any good. And, Chris, I'd be nervous as a Dolphins fan, just the historical statistical reality that to pull 3 quarterbacks in the top 10 and have them all end up being really good doesn't happen. Happened kind of in 2004 with Eli Manning, Phillip Rivers, and Ben Roethlisberger. Roethlisberger was number 11, though.
Right.
Odds are, with Justin Herbert looking great and Joe Burrow looking great, odds are the Dolphins got the bust. Let's just find out. Let's see what we got. Let's put him on the field because it'll be better next year. You get him reps now, he'll be better next year instead of waiting until next year to put him in the fray.
I think that's what their main thought is it's not about this year. I mean, yeah, let's hope he can bring us to the playoffs and we can be a contender and all of those things. But, if they have to take a step back to take 2 steps forward for the 2021 season, I think they'll take that. I think that's exactly what they're doing. I mean, you explained it the right way. Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's had some success. He's done some good things. We still see Fitztragic a lot. I mean, he threw 2 dumb interceptions in the game the other day against the Jets. So, yeah, they know what he is as a football player, and they were dancing the fine line of, oh, man, we're kind of getting good, and Ryan Fitzpatrick is playing some pretty good football, and this team's fun to watch where, yeah, he gets a little following, and whether the success of this year, makes more pressure on Tua or whatever else, or if they decide to do this a little later on down the road when maybe they were 5-5 or something like that, or even a better record at 6-4, that would be really difficult. That'd be hard to sell to your locker room. If they got down here and it was, 6-4, 7-4, something like that, and then they pulled the cord, man, right now is the time to do it for Tua, for the organization. The team is ready. I think they probably didn't start him week 1 because of the injury, and they just wanted to make sure they took it slowly and he was physically hitting on all cylinders before they put him out there in harm's way. And it makes sense from that standpoint. It really does. And we'll see where they go. We do. Like we said, maybe he can maximize more out of this team, this offense, and with his own ability than a guy like Fitzpatrick can. They're hoping so. It's just, does it happen this year or will it happen next year?
Another important factor we have yet to discuss as it relates to this decision to go from Fitzpatrick to Tagovailoa, we're not privy to what's happening in practice.
Well,
we don't see what Tua is doing, and we don't know what the mood of the locker room is.
Yeah.
We can look at this and say this is a move for the future. There are going to be guys in the locker room that say, screw the future. We got a pretty good team. We want to win now.
Definitely, yeah.
And you're either risking that blowback or those guys are on board with it because they know Tua is the better option if you want to win now.
Well, that could be a very real possibility. That it might have got to the point to where down in Miami, Tua is starting to, open up some eyes on a daily and weekly basis to people who are starting to go, wow, whatever that is. And, yes, I think your point about, Ryan Fitzpatrick doing well, things like that, are there plays and reads he misses and leaves meat on the bone every now and then? I'm sure there is. That's the great story about Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes. I love to say that. Hey, they were the number 2 seed. He was the number 1 quarterback in football, quarterback rating. Why would they ever change quarterbacks? Why would they have ever drafted? Oh, that's right, because numbers can lie. There could have been a million other plays that were there to be had that Patrick Mahomes would have took advantage of, and Alex Smith didn't. And that could be a very real possible part of this situation, too, to where they go, hey, it's good for Fitzpatrick, but we think we can do more with this guy. We might, again, have to take a step back as he kind of gets a feel for the league or whatever. But, again, I think the greater good and what they're going to have to try to sell to their team is their best team that they can possibly be will be with Tua at quarterback. It just might not look like that the first week or two when he gets in there.
3 years ago when Mahomes was on the bench, Travis Kelce was on this show. And the issue came up of the things Mahomes is doing in practice.
Yeah.
Kelce was over the top effusive. And that's one of the reasons why I'm thinking, well, as this offense sputters, and Andy Reid's the one that stood up and took the flack for it. It's not the quarterback, it's me. And it really is amazing in hindsight that he allowed Smith to have that final season, to take it as far as he could. And yeah, they got to the playoffs, but they didn't come close to the ultimate goal.
Right.
I really do. I can't help but wonder. And I wonder how the locker room felt about that. Now, look, some of those guys were there 2 years later when they finally get their Super Bowl rings. But there may have been some guys there in 2017 thinking, we got a shot at getting our Super Bowl ring now. And it's a testament to how Andy Reid controls his team. You know, some coaches are going to have a problem in the locker room in a situation like that. Others aren't. Reid's a guy who's not going to have that problem. But we'll see if Brian Flores has that problem. We just don't know. And here's the other thing we don't know, Chris. We can't assume that this is a decision of the coaching staff. We will, and it probably is, but you may be getting some pressure from above to put Tua out on the field.
Yeah.
Because I heard back at the time, Tua wasn't a coaching staff pick. Tua wasn't a GM pick.
Right.
Tua was an owner pick. That was the fallback when they couldn't persuade the Bengals to do a deal that would have allowed the Dolphins to get Joe Burrow. Tua became the guy for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, well, I heard the same talk. I know we had a lot of conversations on the show and privately back then that we felt like that was going on, and we talked to some people that we trusted that we felt like, yeah, the owner was very involved in the pick, and certainly, and wanted to get that, marquee name and, face of the franchise type guy. I'll go back to something I think you said a little earlier. There's always a bust in the top 10 or whatever. We got two guys that we've shown to be good. Well, I think that's put pressure on the situation too. I mean, Joe Burrow, yeah, he's taking a beating and they're not winning a lot of games, but every game he's impressive. I mean, again, last week, I know they lost, but they're not good. But he's one of the shining, beacons of that football team right now. So I think between that and then they see Justin Herbert and it probably start, okay, these guys, they're not overwhelmed. They're ready. Our guy went to Alabama. I mean, he's ready. We know that. Let's not be afraid to throw him out there. And I think, I think that probably nudged them a little closer to making this decision as well.
Yeah, I mean, those factors cannot be overlooked because as we see other young quarterbacks do well, the owner, if he was involved in any way, and one of the privileges of being a billionaire is you don't have to tell people directly what you want them to do. There are ways to drop hints, and if people want to continue to be employed by the billionaire, they will act on those hints. Now's the time to find out because you know what? It's not like the fan base is going to get upset and not come to the games. They hardly have any fans there anyway because of the pandemic.
Good point.
Let's build some excitement for next year. Let's see what Tua can do. Let's find out whether or not we have a guy that's going to come out and be durable. That's the one big thing I'm concerned about with Tua.
No doubt.
Yes, I want to see if he passes the eyeball test. But when he suffered the fractured hip last year at Alabama, and I started talking to GMs about what this does to his draft stock, the one thing that stood out to me, 3 lower leg injuries, 3 lower body injuries in 3 years at Alabama. Will he be durable as a mobile quarterback at the next level when he has a lower body injury every single year at college, where even though the SEC is the cream of the crop that rises to the top, boom,
Very
bingo.
Well done.
Thank you very much. The NFL is a different ballgame altogether.
Yes.
And the one critique you've had of Tua, he doesn't avoid contact, and he takes a lot of awkward hits, and you start taking awkward hits from NFL players, and you're not going to be playing for very long.
Yeah, that's what's scary. It is. I mean, yes, SEC is amazing. It's got more NFL defensive linemen than any other conference. It's not even close, but there's still a lot of defensive linemen in that conference that will never play in the NFL, and there's still a big jump to what you're saying. I mean, when you get on the NFL field, the defensive ends are all LSU. It's different. They can all fly. They can all go. You have to be a special type of runner. He was a good runner in college, not special. And then, yes, he plays small and has, a little bit of that recklessness that, listen, we've talked about, whether that's Carson Wentz or Josh Allen a little bit, to where the play just will never die for him. And he might hold the ball to the very last second. And because he's a smaller guy, man, he took a lot of big hits, and he's not as fast as like a Carson Wentz or a Josh Allen. So that's what I do worry about. I really do. So we'll see what it's all about. He looked comfortable in the game last week, looked cool in the number 1. I like the way he looks. I love a lefty quarterback out there. That's great to see. But I did have my questions about him at Alabama. I did. Thought he was really good. But, their offense is still really good there right now. They're still just tearing it up, going up and down the field. And I just want to see, was it him or was it maybe more them? And that's where I kind of had my questions.
And I want to see, is it something that will point to Tua being the guy who doesn't work out? Did they get the wrong guy? Because Justin Herbert is flourishing, even though the Chargers are 1-4 and Herbert's yet to win a game. There are other ways to determine whether or not a guy's getting it done. Herbert's clearly getting it done.
Right.
We'll know quickly whether or not Tua is getting it done. And he does get the baptism by fire Sunday, November 1.
Oh, baby.
Los Angeles Rams coming to town. Now, I don't know if that counts as bingo, but we are going to refer to the Miami Dolphins schedule here.
Let's do it.
You mentioned it earlier. After the Rams, they go to Arizona, which is not going to be an easy win, but they're not a team you write off, not after what they did to the 49ers in Santa Clara a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Then it's the Chargers. How about that? Justin Herbert and Tua on the same field, competing with each other to justify who's better at 5 or 6. At the Denver Broncos, not a gimme, but not like going to Kansas City. And then at the Jets, there's a win. The Bengals, boy, we got the round robin here.
I know.
Now, too bad Herbert wasn't playing when the Chargers and Bengals got together in week 1, but Tua's going to get to face both of these guys over the next several weeks. And then they do have the Chiefs, the Patriots, the Raiders, and the Bills to end the season. But, hey, look, I'm not going to write them off. When you look back at who they've beaten,
that's right.
The 49ers, the Jets and the Jaguars, okay, but to beat the 49ers at a time when we thought they're going to find a way to work through these injuries, they should win the games that they are supposed to win. 43-17, that got our attention. I'm not ready to write the Dolphins off, but I think that they understand it's about laying the foundation for next year. Let's see what we can do this year. But the more reps he gets now, the better he's going to be in the future. Give him the opportunities to let the game slow down. Don't throw him into it week 1 next year in a full stadium.
Right.
Hopefully it'll be a full stadium.
Yep.
And you're just wondering. And yeah, if you somehow pull an inside straight and get the 7 seed, and you have people saying what happened to Fitzpatrick, it doesn't set up for the best possible circumstance.
Exactly right. You put the guy with a lot of pressure on him. I mean, the microscope would be on him. It's as soon as they lose a game, they're like, oh, well, should they have drafted him? Should they have stayed with Fitzpatrick? They're 1-1. I mean, I don't know if he's the face of the franchise, so they don't want to hear that talk. You're right. And I think to your other point, too, you don't want to be into week 1 next year, starting your first game and playing in the NFL. It's just not good. The NFL quarterback, I know you've heard me say it a million times, it's just – you can practice all you want. It's just nothing's going to get you ready until you get out there in a real game. It's just it's different. It doesn't matter. The game is never perfect on the real field as compared to practice. People tearing your head off, having to adjust on the fly. Nothing beats being out there and getting that experience. And Mike, the other thing you talk about, like with the schedule, it's great because you look at all those teams. You talked about, they beat the 49ers, and the other 2 wins were kind of, Jacksonville and the Jets. But, damn, they got impressive losses. That's I think, the thing I'm intrigued by or, like opens up my eyes. Hey, they were tough on the Patriots. They were tough on the Seahawks. And the Bills game was a shootout back and forth. And not to say the Bills are the best team in the AFC, but they're still a good football team. So there is something here. And, bye week, you got the Rams. I think they looked at it and went, oh, okay, yeah, the Rams, we know they're a little bit better than us, no doubt. But I think Flores thinks his team probably matches up really well with them. You saw what the Giants did to the Rams a few weeks ago. Ex-Patriots coach up there, Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator of the Giants. Brian Flores is going to have those same type of New England type of scheme that we saw New England shut down the Rams in the Super Bowl with. And he's got really good corners and those type of things as well. And the other thing that I think is a little bit beneficial with the Rams are really simple on defense, Mike. So it's a game where, he's not going to have to do a lot of mental gymnastics and be like, what? I don't know what coverage this is. I don't understand this. This is some crazy Baltimore Ravens, everyone's standing around. The Rams are kind of like, nope, here we are. It's cover 3. It's man-to-man. It's quarters coverage. That's it. Can you block 99? Okay, that's all. We'll see what happens. And that kind of is helpful for a young quarterback, too, to play a defense like that.
What will you be looking for November 1, Rams, Dolphins, as we're watching all of the games unfold? When Tua goes out for the first time, what will you be watching for to see whether or not he's ready for this kind of competition, especially with not just 99, but also Jalen Ramsey on the other side.
Yeah,
of the ball.
no doubt. Yeah, well, the first thing, and I think you would agree here, is I'm big into the look test right off the bat. Just how does he look? How does he look in the pocket with everybody around him? What's his presence on the field? Does he bring a little edge and attitude to the football team? What is it exactly there that he brings? And then, yeah, I want to see what his arm looks like in an NFL environment. I do. He threw to a lot of wide open receivers in Alabama. I want to see him, like, when he's got to step on the pedal a little bit and it's tight coverage on a 15-yard out route. I want to see, can he zoom it in there? What does he look like running around as far as his size and his movement that way? Those are things I'm not sure about. Baker Mayfield, that was my big concern about him coming out in the draft. And it's coming true. That's what scares me. Big Baker Mayfield, the pocket gets around him. He can't see anything downfield, and he panics, and he looks at the pocket, and then you don't know where the throw is going to go. I mean, he'll just throw it. So those are the little things I worry about with Tua and that I'll be watching for in that first game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I think they're doing the right thing, whether they make the playoffs or not, whether they win another game or not. This is about building for the future, and this is about seeing what you have. Do you have your franchise quarterback? They really haven't had one since Dan Marino. They've tried.
Yep.
They had Chad Pennington for a year where it all fell together, and they won the division the season that Tom Brady suffered a torn ACL week 1. And still, the Patriots went 11-5, but the Dolphins won that division when Pennington landed in their laps because the Jets went out and got Brett Favre. Other than that, they've had a hard time developing quarterbacks. They've had a hard time identifying competent veteran quarterbacks they could bring in. They thought they had something in Ryan Tannehill. They gave him an amazingly long amount of time, and it has to be killing them. And maybe this is a factor too, Chris.
Right.
It's got to be driving them crazy that the guy they invested 6 full seasons in is now tearing it up for the Tennessee Titans and looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, well, hopefully they learn their lesson. I don't think this Dolphins regime is going to make these mistakes. They never really set Ryan Tannehill up with anything to be successful with. So what do you expect? It's a little like the Jets right now. They're in the similar spot. Poor Adam Gase. He didn't build either one of those teams, but he's same thing. Like, hey, Sam Darnold's good, but how good do you think he's going to be? I mean, who there is going to make him great or that offense great? And it's the same thing they did to Ryan Tannehill. When you draft one of these top 10 quarterbacks, the next thing you have to do is give him a supporting cast to justify the quarterback in the top 10, make your investment look good, get people in football to go, oh, your first-round pick looks, your top 10 pick looks good, get the media and the public perception around that pick going in the right way. That is the right way to do it. And, that's where they messed up. Now, right now, they got it. I mean, with Preston Williams and Devontae Parker, they got a little run game going. Mike Gesicki is starting to show like he's one of the best pass-receiving tight ends in football. They got these young offensive linemen. They're kind of doing good. So they've got the support already here now. And now it's like, okay, now the quarterback's up to speed. He's healthy. Here we go. Let's see if he can take off with the rest of the offense here and show us something. And at least I think they got the formula the right way for it to be successful. We'll see whether or not it works.
Wouldn't it be fun to do a little mad scientist thing and start moving some of these quarterbacks around?
Oh, I think about it all the time.
I thought of it when you mentioned Darnold and Mahomes. Just flip-flop those two.
Right.
Put Sam Darnold in Kansas City, put Patrick Mahomes with the Jets, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, right. I still Mahomes would still do amazing things, but yeah, would they be much better? I don't know. Maybe they win one game right now. Maybe they win one. But yes,
they beat the Chiefs.
But it is. I do the same thing. It is a fun exercise, and I think there's something to be said about that. As awesome as Mahomes is, we sometimes I do feel like we forget. Even that was my thing with like Troy Aikman the other night a little bit. He kind of was talking about Josh Allen and he finally got some weapons, and I wanted to be like, well, yeah, Mahomes always had weapons. That's not always fair. He had the best tight end in football, one of the best receivers in football, one of the best play callers in football, and that helped them show what he really is and can be as a player. And now he's the best player in the sport.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.